Well, our beloved St. Louis football Cardinals were known for making less than intelligent player moves over the years. I remember some of George Boone's drafts. Remember Johnny Bearfield? Johnny Bearfield was a linebacker who showed up holding out. And I remember meeting him at Lambert Field. He had a quarter in his ear, and he said, "I'm the 25th wonder of the world." That was some of the draft choices. But looking back on it, it should not surprise us that when the Big Red drafted Dave Butz, they made a mistake in his contract. He was the Big Red's first-round pick. That mistake made Dave a free agent after just 2 years and some 13 games. George Allen grabbed him quickly, but the NFL ruled that Washington had to give the Cardinals 2 first-round draft choices and a second-rounder. Before we go any further, inquiring minds want to know who the Big Red got with those picks. How about quarterback Steve Pizarkowicz? Don Coryell went crazy when they made that pick. Steve Pizarkowicz could not play a lick in the NFL. The second-round pick was linebacker Calvin Fabron. I don't remember Calvin Fabron very well. So Dave Butz went to the Washington Redskins after playing just 13 games with the Big Red. He went on to play over 200 games with Washington. 200 games. He was the 1983 NFL Defensive Player of the Year, a member of the All-NFL team in the 80s. Dave is third all-time in sacks for the Redskins. He anchored the Skins' defensive line for 14 seasons. In 1982, the Redskins' defense allowed just 128 points. Fewest in the NFL. That is remarkable. 128 points. Probably the most important statistic, though, Dave is the owner of 2 Super Bowl rings. He was captain of both of those teams. He had 132 scholarship offers out of high school and picked Purdue. Interestingly enough, legendary Kentucky basketball coach offered Dave a basketball scholarship at 6', 280. That'd probably be a pretty good power forward, I guess. He did play basketball in high school, by the way. At Purdue, he was college football's Player of the Year in 1972. In 2014, Dave was inducted into the College Football Hall of Fame. We're delighted Dave and his family continue to make this area home, and tonight we are honored to welcome him into the St. Louis Sports Hall of Fame. Dave Butz. You have the Super Bowl rings on, by the way?
Yeah, you cut me short. It's 3 Super Bowls, 1 runner-up.
Well, you won 2.
Right. Yeah.
That's what I was talking about, Dave.
There's no loser in the Super Bowl. There's a winner and there's a runner-up. I got a runner-up ring.
You got it.
Well, first things first, Dave. You want 30 seconds to rebuke Mr. Mock?
Well, they did cut me. Yeah, that's one of the things you have to do. If you look at the size of a person, and then you look at the experience. Experienced person will allow you to look like you're winning, and at the last moment push you away. A bigger guy will stay upstairs, and football's a matter of inches. If somebody's going to cut you, you have to get 1 inch further off the ball so you can react, jump up in the air, and try to jump on the back of their neck here where it joins the shoulder pad. then they stop cutting you for a while.
Carl, would you like rebuttal on that? So let's talk about the 1983 team. First of all, just talk about that environment at RFK Stadium, because I know it was electric, and those were some great years for the Washington Redskins.
Well, it was a great teams. We had a lot of guys that played together, hung together, and were teammates on and off the field. And that's very important if you want to be successful. The old days, you used to have horses, you know, and used to pull the old fire rigs. Well, one horse got lame, they put another one in there, and the whole unit fell apart. To be good and successful, you've got to stay together as a team and play every time and not find reasons to be on the bench.
People talk about the 85 Bears defense. Was that 83?
We were good, but probably not as good as the Bears. But we were good. We could. It's a marvelous feeling to be able to walk on a field and know you have a chance or potential of winning every game that you walked on the field. As long as you gave an honest effort and you didn't turn the ball over and you did, each one did what they were expected. In fact, that's when coaches said, well, we knew we were going to win the '87 Super Bowl. And I said, well, really? How'd you guys know that? You could have told us. And he said, well, everybody was coaching everybody. And we were. We were telling, I as a defensive telling my offensive people what the guys did and vice versa. And we were successful.
Who was the toughest guy you ever matched up against?
Toughest single guy was Joe DeLonglear. He had an extremely hard head. And I don't care. He still does to this day, by the way. And he would come out every play. Danny's here in the audience, and we played him one time with St. Louis, and I got up out of bed, and every joint in my body creaked, made a noise, and I put my hand on the bedstand and woke my wife up, and she said, what's wrong, what's wrong? I said, don't worry, I'm not falling through the floor. So it was a joint, or a wrecking deal, you know. You had to come, and you had to be prepared to play the whole game, because he kept coming all the time.
And so all those creaks were the accumulative effect of his hard head?
Of one game, yeah.
So who was, let's see, what was the proudest moment of your career? Either you've been involved in business post-football life, and you've been involved a little bit in politics to some extent. What's the,
Very little.
what's the proudest moment? Either
The proudest moment, I think, is playing for the East-West Shrine game. I've said this all my life. There were guys that could run with the wind and pick up the average human being and throw them around like they were nothing. And here were little people, some in seatbelts and wheelchairs, and some that had to lay on their stomach on a stretcher to hold up a pen and paper for us to sign it as ball players. I was back against the wall, against this bed, and I just saw how ironic human spirit is and what happens to them. And, you know, I could have been there, but I'm not. Thank you. Thank God. And that was really tough on me to watch. Little people working, not to hold up like we would, like a pen and paper, just working to hold, you know, trying to get it up in the air for us. That was tremendous.
And it just propels you for the rest of your career, too, and you, I guess you understand what you have and the gift you've been given.
Well, I'm stubborn and bullheaded, which makes a great football player and little else. I will find a way to beat you. I'll find a way to win. My teams might have lost, but I never lost. And I took it personal. If you tried to run the clock out, you chose to run at my position, you can go down that way, or you can go down that way, but if you're coming right here, you're going to pay for it.
We know the Big Red brought you here to St. Louis.
Big Red, you know, I hurt my knee. It's amazing what your mind can do for you, or your mind can help you, your mind can hinder you. I got a knee injury. I had all my weight on my left foot, and I was trying to make a left-hand turn. An individual came and threw a block on me, and they brought me to the sidelines, and they moved my knee over here and moved it over there and said, take your pads off, you're through. And it's amazing what your mind can do for you. It's just unbelievable. They finished up on an x-ray on the inside of my knee. So I was on the left side laying, and I went through all the x-raying table, and as my family knows, it fell 90 degrees sideways. From here down, it went that way, off the x-raying table. And I did twice the amount of work, twice the amount of weights, and people had a simple cartilage removal. And at age 38, I was the oldest active football player in the league, and I was never supposed to play again in my life, and ended up playing 14 more years. So, thank God.
Just one real quick one for you. We've had some great Hall of Fames, including this one here in St. Louis, the College Football Hall of Fame. When's Canton going to call you?
I don't know about Canton, but I've had some very good. Joe Green met me one time, and he said, Dave, my name's Joe Green. I said, yes, sir, I know who you are. And he said, my hat goes off to you. He says, you and Darryl Grant have played the 4-3 better than anybody I've ever seen in my life. He says, we tried to do it. I tried to do it. He says, there's over 8 different combinations of people that can get you in the 4-3. And he said, you were the best player, so that was a hell of a compliment from a hell of a gentleman.
Yes. Welcome to the St. Louis Sports Hall of Fame, Dave Butz.
As they take the picture, one of my fondest memories of covering sports all these years in St. Louis were the Big Red Washington Redskin games because of Don Coryell and George Allen. They hated each other, and Coryell used to hire off-duty policemen to patrol the top of the stadium for practices. We'd walk in with a camera, and we'd have to set it on the ground because he was so paranoid. He thought that we were going to tell George Allen what the Cardinals were going to do. It was absolutely bizarre.
I'd like to add just one caveat while it's still up here. I got traded to the Washington Redskins. I got there and it was really late, and out of this room comes a bunch of old coaches. Little did I realize they were players that I was going to play with. So, in the 14 years I was with the Redskins, we played the Cardinals twice every year. And out of those 14 years, Cardinals only beat us 3 times.